Salutations, ladies and gents. Snufflebun here. And just for this, I want to just kick this off with I wanted to talk about God for a minute, in a sense, where just a couple things I found kind of interesting. And the first one I'm gonna say, and this is from a limited, knowledgeable perspective as to how fluent I am in the knowledge for this topic, because I don't know enough. I've read the Bible fully, and I'm still learning. It's just a lot of thoughts. But the first one I want to accentuate is the parallels between things like Judaism, Islam, and Christianity in terms of how Jesus is. And another one as well, because he has it in there, which is the epic poem by John Milton, Paradise Lost. For starters, we'll go with at least I don't know. Paradise Lost is a bit similar to Christianity, but I think we'll go with Christianity first, because Jesus' little thing in Paradise Lost is a bit less apparent. I'll go through it first on second thought, just because it's a bit different. Because there was whenever he wrote it in the 16th century, I think, religion was more constricting and severe in how people went about its, process and customs and beliefs and thoughts. So him writing this, which it signifies Lucifer mainly, as in it humanizes him as a character into the perspective of him as to what he went through, both in heaven before he rebelled and after he rebelled, and the ending. And one of the common debates is, due to Jesus' inclusion, was he, based on his identity, was he created by God at some point? Or was he always there? Because I think between their creation, the angels, including Lucifer, and I think it was this in the times of Jesus' inception, or whenever Jesus was created and us are just real. I don't know. It was within a week of each other. I forgot what exactly it was. But in John Milton's, story, Jesus was created. They had a whole celebration, all that. And the reason that's such a thing is, now we'll go into the Christian part, because we have God, the figure of God, and we see him as a boundless thing. He's beyond time, space, and matter, everything we're bound by. And then we have this other being. He is inherently kind of constricted to flesh, our appearance and similarity. But he's higher than us in, I would say, a spiritual sense. So what would that mean? I mean, the first thing I want to point out is in the beginning, at the beginning in Genesis, when he's creating everything, and he says let us make man in our image. So that's plural. He's speaking about him and a few others. And because with our perspective, God, or God the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit, those are separate beings. That's how we see them. That's how we can consciously and logically, within our logic, conceive what these things are. 3 separate beings, but their essence is the same. But even so, it's using plural, so there's at least 2 of them, which it could be just God and the Holy Spirit, but I think this would be Jesus as well. There's a higher power we get to. There's a power to strengthen us, and there's one to model ourselves by, and I think that would be Christ. Where we only know of his relevance because he came into our existence. We can't look at God directly, mortally. Like when he was trying to appear to Moses, he had to finesse it to where Moses could only see the back of his head. That's like God the Father. He's trying to look at God the Father. And if he did actually look at him as he was living, he would have died. Now, Jesus is different because we don't need that to look at him. He's just that. But our only introduction to his inception is when he was born, which is telling. But now if we go specific to, Christianity, he's like referred to, like I think in Revelation, it's the revelation of the invisible God. He's God, the God's only begotten Son, God, I guess incarnate, or the revelation. He's him in human form. He's limited within that human form, but his power is still beyond our comprehension. Notably, his purpose in this one is probably the same as Paradise Lost, but Paradise Lost covers something specific, and Christianity is the whole thing. And yeah, this one's covering most of it, which he's the Son, but he's also being sent down, going down, to give himself up, his mortal life, to die for everyone in existence, and then eventually come back after 3 days. Now, we take a look at Islam. This one's weird, because Jesus is a relevant figure heavily, although I don't see much relevance with him than Muhammad, despite the fact that I think Jesus is apparently the one that's supposed to be coming in the second coming to round up believers or whatever. Anyway, with this in mind, Jesus is still prosecuted and put to death, but since he was such a perfect prophet, Allah said, no, I wouldn't want my prophet to be killed this way. So he put someone in his place that looked kind of like him, and they died. That's deceitful, for one thing, I would personally say, and this is also because I don't believe in it, and I don't know all of it. I haven't even read the Quran yet. This is just what I know. But that's what happened. And then he apparently comes to the second coming and all that. Things like Judaism or Rabbinic Judaism are different. For one, they don't see him as God, nor like any kind of special figure or a prophet. They see him as just some kook who just kept talking and then he died for his nuisance activity. Rabbinic Judaism is a bit more convicting, in a way where there is apparently texts I have seen that said that he is burning in boiling excrement and he was a bastard, basically just roasting him. That's really telling. They lit, it's more than just conventional Judaism, where they don't really see him as a figure that we do. These people hate him. They absolutely hate him. They go after his mother and all that. They hate him. They don't think he's the Messiah. Maybe a sorcerer. Some people would say a sorcerer. Now with this, I also want to talk about something else, which is kind of a headcanon thing. And what I mean is, well, I'll take three things into account, because it's a lot of this is a contradiction, this is not congruent with it doesn't sound logically sound. And the first example I'll go to is Revelation. And this text in the Bible is one of the most problematic, not mainly just because of its outlandishness and what it's saying. Because there's a scene where John sees the vision, and I think he first sees the lamb with the 7 eyes and horns, flaming whatever, and he has 2 swords sticking out of his mouth. We are led to think of that image and then 2 swords just in his mouth. Now the question is if we take that literally or not. And I don't really think you do. You could, we maybe it is, but we don't know. We don't know what John saw. But I think I go back to this one verse. I don't know if it was in like Hebrew or Proverbs or something. I don't think it was Psalms. But it talks of do not fear the one who can kill the body or like destroy the body, but you fear the one who can destroy the body and the soul. And I think that might be what it accentuates. Because this is during the time of where God is going to judge everyone. Where he will save your soul, you will forget your old body, or you will perish. Both your soul and body, you're done for. Satan can't do that. And I think those two swords are like a symbol of that kind of thing. It could be or maybe not. I don't know. There's a lot of factors in there that are like, we don't know if, like maybe it's talking about helicopters or nukes or all these other stuff. We don't know. We won't know until it's happening, and when it's happening, it's too late. Another is it's one where God's walking with someone. I think it was Isaac or like Abraham. But I think it might have been Isaac. Or maybe Jacob. I don't remember. But he makes a statement where he's basically saying that a day to a day to God is like 1,000 years for humans. And based on the timeline of the Earth, this led to people, I think, believing that the Earth is 6,000 years old, or however, or maybe 7,000. Because like the seventh day for God could be like from when he stopped creating that and then till now. That could all be within that time frame. And since this is the kick, and since like the start of that day was still within that time frame, it was still whenever they ate the fruit, Adam and Eve, then, you know, the rest follows. But I don't think that's what it means, and it probably shouldn't. I don't think it makes sense. And God doesn't correct him, but I think he's making like an example, saying how God's perspective is different from us. Completely. And it really is. Because unlike us, he isn't bound by the little trivial things we are. Why? I'm not going to get too into it because I could rant about this for like an hour. But it's to the point where God's, since he, like if we, I'll like tease it with like what reality is, what it contains, and what God created for us, what we can understand, what we have understood, which is 3 constants: matter, space, and time. Okay? Now we take time. If I'm creating something, like absolutely creating something, then you created that. You're not bound by it. It's like if I make rules, I'm not bound by the rules because I made them. And so due to God's perspective, he isn't bound by our time. He can like just glimpse right here to what I'm doing now to 10 years into the future, like that. Faster. He can do it before I even conceive the idea. That's how fast it is. And we can't comprehend that. Like saying he endured suffering, but he already endured it because he knows what's going to happen anyway. But we can't conceive that. It just is. But yeah, I don't think that's like a day for God is 6,000 years. Time wouldn't pass for God. He doesn't need that permission to do that. The last one at the moment for that is back in the Garden of Eden, whenever God he makes man and woman, and he's like, yo, Adam, don't eat the fruit. Everything else you can touch, all of that, you're good. But you get anything else, it's over. Lest you surely die. But they eat it anyway, and they don't die immediately. My issue with this is that then people will be like, well, he's lying. The serpent was right. Why would God lie to them like that? Well, we gotta back up a second. And two, we gotta realize maybe God isn't serious about what he's saying. Not strictly, like, literally, Adam, if you eat this thing, you're gonna die. Right there. That's it. He might not be saying that. What could this mean? And to further delve into what I think it means, which should be, I think, the canon consensus, it's a factor of, okay, let's understand what happened whenever they ate it. Because when they ate it, they might have felt shame or maybe something like guilt, but then they realized something, and what was that something? They realized they were nude, that they were naked. So they used like fig tree leaves and put on some clothes to the best of their ability. And God comes down, he's like walking around. And people, and also on a separate note, God walking around the, whatever, that could be Christ just walking around. That's what people think, and I'm inclined to believe that too. Although, could that be God the Father? Sure, we don't know. We'd have to ask him. But with that point, they realized they were naked. God asked them, and they kind of divert blame. They kind of beat around the bush a little. But that's what happens. And so I like to compare it to a child, okay? Because there is a point to make where they don't really know what good and evil is, because the fruit they ate is from the tree that is called the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And the knowledge they got was the fact that, for the first time as an example, they know what shame was, or being naked was, that they should be clothed. God didn't tell them that, they found that out. That gave them all the possibilities to do that. Excuse me. They were accidentally doing it anyway because they were naked, but they didn't know any better. They didn't know that. All they knew was don't eat this fruit, but they did anyway. And they were naked, and then they fully realized they were naked, and now it's a problem. The reason I say it's kind of like a child is because, well, there's a lot of things the child doesn't realize, and then at some point they will realize it, and then it might be a problem. Like, let's say a child picks their boogers, and then the parent's like, yo, you shouldn't do that. Or they see a video where it's like, don't do that, and now it's a problem. Now it's an issue. The boogers are an issue now because they realize the knowledge of something being bad. That's like part of the example. And another one is sex education. And I'll say an example for me. Before we got the class at school, just, talking about reproductive, all that, someone told me about it, saying what happened. And you could argue I was innocent before that. We would think a child is innocent in a sense before something taints them. We think children are innocent, but when something taints them, their reality is shifted. It's different. It's changed forever. What makes that different for Adam and Eve? Would that not be the same thing? They're innocent now. I mean, if you give a toddler a gun and then you're on the floor with your head bleeding, you say, well, it was an accident, but they still shot the gun. I didn't know, the toddler didn't mean to, do you in, but they did. It's like Adam and Eve didn't mean to be naked, but they were. And then they found out what being naked was, and they're like, we need to stop this cover up. That's what I think. That's when their innocence died. Because they did die later. If they had mortality still, or maybe they didn't, then the fruit accentuated mortality. Because that's another thing. being away from God causes life to dwindle, your innocence to die. But it's really interesting to think about. On the debate and talk over it, it's nice to get the thoughts out to anyone, really. But yeah, that's it. Farewell.